restaurant shone under the gold chandeliers, the soft murmur of luxury thick in the air. Each table was dressed in pure white linen, and every seat was occupied by people who lived in a world defined by power, privilege, and influence. And right in the midst of that glittering world sat a young woman who did not quite fit. Laya, the maid's daughter, in a worn sweater, clutching her small purse, as if it were her only source of safety. Tonight was supposed to be special. She had saved for weeks just to afford this one evening $4 blind date in a place where even a glass of water cost more than she made in a day. Her fingers shook as she checked her phone, forcing a smile to mask the anxiety behind it. Before we proceed, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and those stories that restore our faith in humanity, take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe to Real Kindness Story, as your support helps us share more moments, reminding the world goodness still exists. Laya grew up seeing her mother scrub marble floors, polish silverware, and wash a never-ending pile of dishes in the mansions of Crestwood Heights. Every day, she watched the women glide out of those homes in perfume that was worth more than what her mother made in a year. But her mother never complained. Instead, she would tell her, "Never be ashamed of where you come from. Be ashamed only if you stop trying." Those words became Laya's anchor: humiliation, rejection, and an endless bearing of the weight of poverty. So when a kind co-worker at the cafe she worked at offered to set her up on a blind date, Laya hesitated, but then said yes. For just one evening, she wanted to feel normal, to laugh, to belong, to be seen as someone more than the maid's daughter. She wore her best outfit, a black sweater loaned from a friend, a red scarf that had been ironed with love by her mother, who whispered, "You look like a lady from the movies." But as soon as she entered that fancy restaurant, her confidence melted away. Her date hadn't even shown up yet, and already she could feel the sharp glances, the quiet judgment in every polite smile from the waiters. She could almost hear the silent question in the air. What is she doing here? With every passing minute, her heart sank deeper. She sipped her water slowly in an effort to make it last. Inside her purse lay exactly $4.27, her entire week's savings. At a nearby table sat Adrian Vale, sole son of one of the city's most powerful billionaires, accompanied by the usual gamut of fake smiles, scripted charm, and conversations orbiting his father's empire. Tonight, though, nothing seemed to capture his interest. Instead, it was the lonely girl by the window who held his gaze, the one fidgeting with her napkin, her eyes darting every few seconds toward the door, as if it was still possible someone might walk in. There was something real about her, painfully real, something that didn't belong in that world of glass and gold. Minutes ticked into an hour. The soft hum of conversation stretched to an ache of silence as Laya realized her date wasn't coming. A smile fit on her quivering lips, but she couldn't hide the glistening in her eyes. Desperate to get out before anyone noticed, she picked up her purse and whispered for the bill. But someone had noticed. Adrian leaned in quietly towards the waiter and said, "Add her bill to mine." When the waiter came back, Laya reached for her purse, but he softly smiled and said, "It's already been taken care of, miss." Confused, she looked around, and then their eyes met. Adrian gave her a simple nod, not filled with pity, but with quiet kindness, the kind that says, "I see you. You deserve better." She blushed from the embarrassment and the gratitude. At this moment, Laya realized that sometimes the smallest gestures come from the most unexpected hearts. Laya mouthed a soft, trembling thank you before quickly slipping out into the cold night air. The moment the restaurant doors closed behind her, she exhaled, half in relief, half in heartbreak. She felt humiliated, yes, but also deeply moved. Someone had seen her pain and cared. She didn't know who that man was. She didn't expect she'd ever see him again. But to Adrian Vale, that quiet girl, with her trembling smile, refused to leave his thoughts. Something in her loneliness paralleled his own. Despite his billions, Adrian lived in a world of transaction. People wanted something from him, his influence, his name, his wealth. Nobody ever wanted it. The next morning, it was then that Adrian started asking questions. It didn't take long to learn the truth. This girl from the restaurant was the maid's daughter. His mother's longtime housekeeper was Rosa, who worked at their family's estate in Crestwood, and Laya was her only child. That weekend, Adrian visited the estate on the pretext of family business, but as he stepped inside, he saw her again, sweeping the marble staircase beside her mother. Her head was bowed, and her movements were humble, yet graceful. He hesitated for a moment, then walked toward them. Grateful for her years of service, he thanked Rosa sincerely, then turned to Laya and lowering his voice asked, "You have a good heart. Don't hide it." Laya froze, unsure of how to reply, because he was the son of her mother's boss, and she didn't know how he could speak so kindly to her. Unexpected friendship over the next few weeks. Adrian began visiting the cafe where Laya worked. He'd sit quietly, order the simplest coffee, and watch, not out of pity, but rather admiration. He noticed how she treated rude customers with patience and poise, They finally began to talk, first awkwardly, as two people from two different worlds. But soon, it became as natural as it can be. Laya learned he wasn't arrogant or entitled. He was just lonely. Adrian learned that she wasn't fragile. She was strong, determined, and proud. One afternoon, he told her something that would change her life. He offered to help her apply for a scholarship through his family's private foundation, a program few even knew existed. Laya hesitated. "I'm not the type of person they'd pick," she said quietly. But Adrian smiled. "Talent deserves a chance, not just privilege." The letter that changed everything. Months later, a single envelope arrived, and inside it, her future. Laya was awarded a full scholarship to study business and management. When she told her mother, both of them burst into tears. Tears of disbelief, joy, and long-awaited pride. The news spread like wildfire through the Vale estate. The maid's daughter had captured the heart, or at least the respect of the billionaire's son. Gossips whispered that Adrian had lost his head. Others said his humanity was misplaced, but he didn't care. He saw something in Laya that money could never buy: dignity, grit, and a heart untouched by wealth. A new beginning years later, Laya graduated at the top of her class. But she didn't stop there. She built something that would change lives. The Second Chance Project is a foundation that helps impoverished women find education and jobs. It was inspired by that one act of kindness that once changed her own path. And on the day she launched her organization, Adrian was there, not as a billionaire's son, but as a proud friend who had once believed in her when nobody else did. Final message: sometimes kindness does not come draped in wealth or great gestures. Sometimes it is as simple as paying for someone's meal, offering a word of encouragement, or giving another soul a reason to hope again. Laya's story isn't about money or power. It is about what happens when compassion breaks through the walls of class and pride. If this story moved you, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Real Kindness Story. Every click helps us share more moments that remind the world there is still good out there. Special request: tell us in the comments below, what's one act of kindness you'll never forget? For that one little act may alter a person's whole existence.